Hey, y'all. It's me again. I know, no glasses. Like, who even is this? Right? But I am Kara Bradford. I am a licensed clinical social worker in Texas and New Mexico and a licensed chemical dependency counselor in Texas. That's a mouthful. It is me. And I am here for another Taco-bout It Tuesday. I think I had mentioned last week when we brought up the subject of trauma that it was likely going to be a several segment series that would bring a lot of questions or feedback. So kind of just want to dive into that today and just see where it takes us. Let's talk about it. I was speaking with one of my friends this past week about last week's segment, and she was just kind of telling me how there were some people that she was talking to about it. And there had been people that were like, even just things like we had two different parts of our brain, that amygdala or lizard brain, and then like this, cortex up here in the front. That was something new. And just kind of how trauma sits in the body and, all the different things. I realized in that moment that sometimes I can talk about things such as that as if everyone knows about that or has been taught that or whatever. And indeed, people haven't. And so I just kind of wanted to just elaborate on some things too and just kind of see where it takes us. That was one of the things that was brought to my attention. So I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit more about that. As we talked about last week, trauma can be described as any experience in which someone has a part of them that feels stuck in that experience every single day. Okay. Those memories of those traumatic events are not stored where memories typically are stored up here in the frontal cortex, but in the back of the brain, in that like hippocampus and amygdala, the survival brain. I just wanted to touch on that. Like I said, that snapshot that is taken of that experience, it's a snapshot of everything in that moment. And it doesn't just have to be a second within that moment. It can be the entire experience, almost as if it was recorded, right? Which when we think about some of the traumatic things that we've been through, like we don't want to think about them as a video, right? But some of those things that are stored there are emotions and even real physical tactile things. As I was talking to my friend about this, I'm like, that's kind of why when something triggers that memory that's back here in the amygdala, like hippocampus area, it feels like we can't control panic. Why it feels like we can't control the feelings that come from that. Well, that's because your body, your mind doesn't know the difference between that experience and then what you are experiencing today. It's as if that part of you traps you in that experience that happened. I mean, it could be yesterday, it could be 10 years ago. It doesn't really matter. It's almost as if it traps you in that moment and doesn't allow you to come back into the present, what you are experiencing right now. Because its only job is to survive. Its only job is to react. And if there's a part of you that is reliving that experience every day and then sometimes gets to pull you into it because of something that you are experiencing currently, there's not much that you can do to control or stop that. You're just going to have to acknowledge that it is happening. You have to acknowledge the feelings that you are having and just remember that feelings, emotions, triggered memories are not caves. They're not deep, dark caves that you go into and don't come out of. That's panic. Your emotions, your triggers, your experiences that are in the past that you have already lived, they are indeed tunnels. Some tunnels are longer than others, right? We can agree. However, it is a tunnel in that there is a beginning and there is an end. You will not feel what you are feeling in that moment forever. It will eventually. And so all we can do is just be cognizant and aware that it is happening and just try to soothe and calm ourselves through it. Just like the scripture says, any weapon formed against you will not prosper. Notice how it doesn't say no weapon will be formed against you. It's not promised that we won't have trials that we go through as believers. In fact, we are promised that we will experience hard things in life. Again, not because we deserve it, not because God is just this legalistic God that sits up in the clouds and judges us. No, it's because people choose sin. People choose to act in these ways and impact us. And going back to, they are not caves, they are tunnels. They do have an end. How you can get through that is practicing self-compassion. You have to have compassion for yourself, because the part that is triggered by the reality that you are living in right now, they are not you today. They are you when that happened. And let's say that that happened to you as a child. Well, it's still a child. It still needs someone. It still needs you. And I don't know if any of you are parents, but I am. And like, anytime that I've ever told my kid, just stop it, is that helpful? No, typically not, right? It's going to make it worse. It's not our job to stop the trigger or to stop the tantrum with our children, right? It's not our job to stop it. It's our job to provide a safe place for them to work through it. Because again, we want to teach our kids that those feelings are not caves, they are tunnels. It will eventually end. So it is our job to have compassion on ourselves as well, just like we have compassion on children. So instead of, like, again, bro, like, what? Why do I keep going through this? Why can't I just be normal? Why do I have to live through this? Instead of that, it could be, of course I feel this way. Of course, this part of me is showing up and is triggered right now, because this feels a lot like X, Y, or Z, right? Instead of judging it, we can just be with it today, who we are today. We can just be with that part that experienced that version of ourselves. And so having that self-compassion and looking at it as we get to care for it instead of judging it. What that can look like is, of course, I'm feeling this way. This thing that just happened to me today makes me feel a whole lot like what I was feeling when I experienced whatever that experience was for you. And just notice it and give it a safe place to work through it. And as believers, we can, again, look a lot to David. David dealt with a lot of things, and people did not understand why David was chosen to be the king of Israel, why he was the one that God talked about the scepter not passing from the tribe of Judah, right? Like David of all people, the little shepherd boy. But it was because, again, God told Samuel, I do not look at people the way that people look at people. I look at people as what's in their hearts. I see their hearts. If you know God, you know that God is not just this God that sits up there and is legalistic and judges you and keeps a record of all of your wrongs and just can't wait to judge you one day. No, he is a compassionate father. He is a father. He will discipline the ones that he loves. Just like if you're a parent, again, you're going to discipline your children. Why? Because you're trying to make sure that they grow up to be like decent adults. We're the same way. The same thing happens with us. Just practicing some self-compassion and getting yourself through it and not judging your trigger. Not making anyone else responsible for your triggers either, but allowing yourself to go through it and to give it to God and to find comfort and peace within that. Next in this kind of area is a lot of times I will hear people saying, like, I just feel like it comes out of nowhere. How am I supposed to know what my triggers are and all of that if there's nothing happening? There's literally nothing that could have triggered me in that moment. Again, keep in mind that that snapshot that was taken took a snapshot of literally everything in that experience when you experienced it. What can happen can be a sound. It could be a song. It could be a tactile thing. It could be like, you feel hot or cold, or you have chills, or, your stomach just doesn't feel right, or you feel like you can't take a deep breath, or any of those things. can trigger something that might have happened. A smell can trigger that. Just like, people are so accepting of nostalgia. Oh man, like that smell, that just takes me back to, this time when, and it's a pleasant memory. We're so accepting of that, but of course, we don't want to feel the negative feelings, right? And that's completely normal. Of course, you don't. I know zero people that actually want to experience those things. And so you get frustrated with yourself and like, I don't even know what is happening. I don't even know what is going on. And that desire that I know that we can slip into is like, I just want to be numb. I don't want to feel it. I don't want to feel anything. So again, there's then another part created that um, is referred to in IFS or internal family systems as the firefighter part. Well, what do firefighters do? They come in and they put out the fire. They don't care what you have in the house. You just better get out because they're just here to put out the fire. Not to say that they won't go in and rescue someone. That's not where I'm going with this, right? So the firefighter's job is only to come in and to put the fire out. The fire is the trigger. The fire is the emotion. And that firefighter part, its strategy in dealing with the trigger is typically what you see with like addiction or dependency, or like when people, choose alcohol or choose drugs or choose to eat or choose to gamble or whatever it is. It's typically a strategy that comes in and basically creates this illusion of numbness, and it just distracts from what's going on. It just because you can be numb to the feeling that you're having doesn't mean that you've healed from it. It just means that you have a really good part that helps to distract you from those feelings to make you feel numb. And where it can become a problem is when that part strategy takes over and you're now numb to everything. If you try to be numb from just negative feelings, likely that you're going to be numb to all of your feelings. And this is kind of what I was talking to my friend about the other day too. I said, I get wanting to feel numb. However, we have to feel the feelings because we have to be able to name them. We have to be able to externalize them, right? And so it's kind of like when you are anxious about something, you can be anxious and anticipate something that you're excited about, starting a new job or buying a new car or, just something exciting. You can also feel anxious in anticipation of something that your mind has created to try to predict what could potentially happen. Well, both starts from like an anxiousness, and it might feel the same. That whatever feeling you get, for me, anxious in anticipation, it's like this warm sensation in my chest that just makes me feel like I could hold my breath and just like lift off the ground and just take off. It's exciting. And I feel it here in my chest. Well, dread with anxiety and fear with anxiety feels the same as anticipation and excitement with anxiety. And so what happens when we become numb to the negative anxiety is we also become numb to the excitement. We become numb to joy. We become numb to even the good emotions. And then when you have just completely become numb, it's really easy to not have any compassion for yourself or anyone else for that matter. When you have not allowed yourself to feel anything, you don't trust your own feelings at that point. You are supposed to have feelings, and it is okay for you to have feelings about something. Feelings, emotions are a communicable attribute of God. We are made in his image. We have emotions. God has felt joy. God has felt anger. God has felt jealousy. You can read about all of those emotions that God has had in the Bible. He has emotions. And what I was telling my friend the other day was sometimes, even as adults, when we have these feelings, they grip us and it feels like they are just taking control of us because they feel so big. Because they are big. If it is a communicable attribute of God, think about God, the creator of the universe, having emotions and you being made in his image. Of course, those emotions feel big. We serve a big God. And that is why he tells us, cast your fear, cast your anxiety, cast all of that upon me. I can bear it. My yoke is light. Cast that on me. I will carry the burden for you, because he knows that our emotions are big because we're made in his image and his emotions are big. He can handle it. But it's when we feel anxiety, especially from fear, where the enemy just kind of creeps in, right? And is like, "Oh, you're feeling anxious? Well, that's kind of your fault that you're feeling anxious. Can't take that to dad, right? Can't take that to God. Doesn't he tell you not to be anxious? What are you going to do with that?" And then it just keeps going from there. And what happens from there is you try to control it. And then the more things that you try to control, the less you actually have control over. And who's there to help you? God is still there to help you. And he's not going to say, "I told you so." He's just going to be happy that you decided to give it to him. And so, again, I encourage you to reach out to your therapist, your counselor, your pastor, whoever is rooted in the word of God for you, and walk through these things. Ask them, ask questions, lean on your community. I promise you, you're not alone, and you're not the only one that experiences triggers from things in your past. Don't let those triggers define you, and don't let anyone else try to define you by your triggers. Like, "Oh, you're triggered. You must not be giving that to the Lord," right? Like, you're so much less Christian than them. That's not true. It's not true. The truth is that we all struggle and we all fall short of the glory of God. And that's okay. He loves us anyway. It's a process. Be patient and compassionate with yourself. I hope this encouraged you. I hope that this taught you something new. I hope that you can use this to encourage others. And I would love to hear from you. Drop a comment or send me a DM. Let me know how this resonated with you. Let me know what other questions you have. What do I need to go deeper on? I have a feeling that there's going to be another segment that sounds a lot like this one, and that's okay. But it might just be on different aspects, and that's okay. I'm not in a hurry, and I'm willing to stay here with you and process some of these things with you. So let me know what we should talk about next Tuesday. Until then, I hope you have a blessed day. Be a blessing. Bye.